Hi, this video is going to show you how to knit the basic knit stitch, which is the basis for anything you want to knit. This supposes that you know how to cast on. So if you need to go back and look at the cast on video, click the little eye in the upper right hand corner. Okay, so you have successfully cast on 10 stitches here. And you've practiced a couple times so that your cast on is nice and even and you're figuring out your tension. Just to go over some of the basic vocabulary, this is your cast on row. You have your 2 needles, and I'm using size 15 needles, and this is a bulky yarn. The end of your yarn that isn't attached to the ball is called your tail end of your yarn. And the end of your yarn that is attached to your ball is called your working yarn. You have your left needle and your right needle. And the process of knitting is going to be taking your work off of your left needle with your right needle, making a stitch and transferring it to your right needle. And that's really by adding a stitch on every one of these stitches, and these are each stitches. So we have 10 stitches cast on. Every time you work a stitch, you make it taller. This is as wide as it's going to be, but every row that we make is going to make your work taller. And we're just going to be adding on to this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my tail end is out of the way. I don't want to use that to knit at all. And this is, once again, my working yarn. So with my needle, my right needle and my left needle, the process of knitting and to make the stitch is we're going to go up underneath this first stitch from the front to the back, kind of from the left to the right, all right? So we're going in this way. We're just going to snug it up under there. And then we're going to take our working yarn and we're going to go around the back of the right hand needle, all right, around the back, and we're going to slowly kind of pull it down so that we create just a little tension. And in doing that, we are making a stitch right here. You see that? So by coming around the back and between those 2 needles, and I'm holding it with my right hand, you see that little stitch there okay? That's going to be the new stitch. So what I need to do with my right needle is pull that stitch out and then slip it off the left hand needle. And I'm going to snug everything up here. So that is a new stitch. So once again, we're going to go from the left to the right, from the front to the back. And then we're going to take our working yarn. Oops, here's our working yarn. Get that tail yarn out of the way. And come around the back of the right hand needle, then between the 2 needles. And here's that yarn that's right here. Okay, I'm going to pull that off with the right hand needle and then slip it off of the left hand needle. So I've just transferred it from the left to the right. So once again, from the front to the back, from left to right. Take my working yarn, go around the back of the right hand needle, between the 2, and that little thread right there is going to be my next stitch. So I kind of pull it through, put it on the right hand and off of the left hand. And you can see these little V's I'm making are my knit stitches. All right, let's just continue to do that from the left to the right, from front to back. Take my working yarn, go around the back of the right hand needle, let my finger try to push that right hand needle down so that I can grab that little piece of yarn, take it from the left needle off onto the right needle. All right, I've made 4 stitches. Left to right, front to back. Take my working yarn around the back, between the 2 needles, and push my right needle down a little with my finger and grab that little thread there, making my 5th stitch. Front to back, left to right. Take my working yarn around the back, between the 2 needles, push it down till my tip of my right needle grabs that little piece of yarn and makes the 6th stitch. Okay, left to right, front to back. Okay, this is our last stitch. We treat it just the same as we do everything else. Pull it off. Now, something I do every time is I count and make sure I started with 10 stitches. I need to have 10 stitches. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. All right, so far so good. If you have 9, you dropped one along the way, or you knit 2 together. If you have 11, you somehow added one. So I always count after my rows to make sure. All right, now now all the stitches are on this right needle, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it around, switch needles and hands. So what was on my right needle is now my left hand. My right hand still now has the bare needle. So I'm going to do the same process again. I'm going to do exactly what I did on the first row, and I'm just going to continue to knit. So once again, we're just going to go from the front to the back, from left to right, take my working yarn around the back of my right hand needle, push it through the 2 needles, grab that loop, pull it off the left and onto the right. By knitting every row, which we're doing now, we are creating the pattern called the garter stitch. Garter stitch is just when you knit every row. So we turn it around again so that our finished work is in our left hand, our empty needle is in our right hand. I would just work a swatch till you get comfortable with your tension, and your tension is just how loose your stitches are, and you want those to be uniform. You want to have the same tension with all your stitches. If you don't, your work will just kind of ruffle, won't lay flat. So you need to just work on your tension, just get the hang of it, just work on knitting. And so that's what you're aiming for. So practice your knit stitches and then come back and we will talk about purl stitches.